What an amazing day yesterday. Off to a great start this morning with these amazing Spark Talks. I think NLC ought to just open up America's Got Talent. I think we would be in pretty good shape. I think karaoke has proved that as well on these two nights. We'll see what tonight brings, and maybe Courtney will let me stay out a little later. So, no. Not likely? Okay, just making sure, Court. On that note, I really do want to thank our amazing team who's worked tirelessly to make this event as seamless as possible, from Courtney and Dustin and Ashlyn and Matt and Oren and Ashlyn and Sean and Brett, and I'm looking around the room. What an amazing, amazing Elise for her leadership. What an amazing, amazing team. So I wanted to come here this morning and give a little bit of a different talk than I have the last few years. I want to talk about this moment in history that we are in right now and the state of the new Leaders Council and what it means. And there's no way I'm going to try to top Michael Blake from last night. I mean, isn't he amazing? 51 years ago, Robert F. Kennedy said, "It is the young people who must take the lead. Thus you and your compatriots everywhere have been thrust upon you the greatest burden of responsibility that any generation has ever lived." Kennedy's remarks took place in South Africa, where apartheid was the rule. But his words challenged the all too often cold and dark realities here at home. He asked if we would lead outside our borders, if we would help those who need our assistance, if we would meet our responsibilities to mankind. We must first, all of us, demolish the borders which history has erected within our own nation. Barriers of race, religion, social class, and ignorance. Our answer is the world's hope. It is to rely on you, the youth. The cruelties and obstacles of this swiftly changing planet will not yield to obsolete dogmas or outworn slogans. Sound familiar? But Kennedy continued, "This world demands the qualities of youth, not a time in life, but a state of mind, a temper of will, a quality of imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity. It is a revolutionary world we live in. It is the young people who must take the lead. My friends, you have a greater burden of responsibility than any generation that has ever lived." My fellow NLCers, here today in our communities around the country, Kennedy's words ring truer than ever before. But let's be honest, those words and the words of so many heroes from that time too often fell on deaf ears. And the one word that sums up our failings over the last 50 years is Trump. We celebrated bling over belonging, war over well-being. We bailed out billionaires, but saddled the next generation with debt. We have desecrated our planet to the point of mass extinction. We set rules that apply to everyone, but those who live the lifestyles of the rich and famous. And the list goes on and on. It was the me generation, not the we generation. And now we got Trump. It's just not the orange man in the Oval Office, but a society deeply split in so many ways. So friends, the brutal truth is this. It is you, yes you, NLC and our community of progressive leaders who have a greater burden of responsibility than any before. This is a moment in time where you will not be judged just by your parents or your peers, but by history. By history. However, I stand before you hopeful and optimistic. Optimistic that you will meet this challenge as leaders. You are prepared to meet this moment. Let's look what you have built. The largest and most impactful leadership training program in the country. 48 chapters, 5,000 alumni, a diverse community that is the reflection of what is best in America. Yes, we've raised record sums of money this year, we have a huge social media footprint, and we have thousands more joining our community every year. But I would argue the most important thing you have built is friendships. When I look around this room, our family has the power to change the dangerous path we are on. And look what you have done. You stood up and marched. You collectively flexed for the first time and elected the vice chair of the DNC. You mobilized as candidates. Now over 600 of you signed up to run. And you're taking a lead on setting a governing agenda with the Millennial Compact. You're impacting your communities in countless ways. And you continue to push NLC to improve, to grow, and to expect the best. People often ask me, how do we win again? And as I travel back and forth across this country, my answer is always the same. It's New Leaders Council. At the end of the day, this simply comes down to people. It comes down to we the people. Yes, massive email lists are great, and we can have the most money or the best digital strategy or policy books, but if we don't invest in people, we can't build and win the future. The brutal truth is progressives are at the lowest governing power in over 100 years because conservatives invested in people in ways in which we did not. In the last decade alone, they spent over $900 million in their leadership pipeline efforts, while progressives barely spent $90 million, 10 to 1. Think about it. Their patient money is paying off today. People like the Koch brothers are paying for a government that even Donald J. Trump called mean. Think about it. And that is saying something. So this is a time for us to develop a message around patriotism, opportunity, compassion, and fairness. We the people. It stands in stark contrast to an administration that is for Putin, for billionaires, and rewards bullies. This is our number one challenge, and NLC is poised to lead the charge. So how do we win? It's this room and rooms across the country of NLC leaders. This room has the creativity, the will to break up the consulting cartel, the courage to challenge the status quo, and now the network to get it done. So my message to you is this: you have to fight harder. Fight for more seats at the table. Fight for what you know is right. Fight for the resources you need to succeed. Trust me, it'll be the fight of our lives. Sadly, not only against opponents, but sadly against so many on our side who simply refuse to make room for the next generation of leaders. But we will win this fight. We're gonna win this fight. In closing, I have to pause and say how proud I am of NLC, of each and every one of you. A group of often strong-willed, next-generation leaders have essentially formed your own governing body, from the MPC to the caucuses, policy teams, budget committees, and so forth. You come together and solve problems. A lesson far too many of our current so-called leaders could learn. When you take a step back and think about it, it is a remarkable project that we call NLC. And I strongly believe you are ready to take on and replace today's often failing government and other institutions. This is why NLC was created, and it's why NLC is succeeding, because we have no other choice. I have a lot of people to thank for making this year such a success. From our tireless chapter directors and chapter leadership, our fellows, our hardworking staff, the trainers, our local boards, our donors, advisory boards, national board, and our honorary national chairs. And to the thousands of people who dig in every year now to make NLC a success, thank you. My fellow NLCers, today in backyards and around kitchen tables, in small businesses to rooms in the tallest buildings of the world, the word civilization now comes up. Heartfelt, nervous, even scared. Civilization. So my three questions to you and to our NLCers across the country is simply this: are you ready to step forward and lead? Are you going to keep standing up and motivate others to stand with you? And are you ready to be judged by history? I believe in you, and I'm forever grateful for your efforts, your energy, and your commitment. Because truly, civilization might well be at stake. So let's leave here united and with a common purpose. And as Michael Blake says, put in the work. See you along the trail and in Houston, Texas next year. Thank you.